What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Kyle. We're finally on the front of the biggest building we've ever built, and I'm getting windows installed. Greg is working on overhead garage door framing so that we can get wrapped up on this front side. There's a lot more work involved because of the windows, because of the garage doors. We have a walk door. So it's not gonna be as quick and as simple as the other two walls that we got done. But first we need to install windows. I've got the first 4 in, and I'm gonna show you a trick when you're installing them by yourselves so that you can install and make sure that you have the proper spacing around the outside. Also, I'm trying these new windows. So Menards, which is where I usually get my gelled-win windows for our buildings, they're not carrying them anymore, I guess. And so they have their own, because Menards is very famous for, like, you know, like all big box stores, they come out with their own products, which are probably just rebadged by another company. And I looked at them and I thought, you know, I'm gonna give them a try. The price is right, the quality seems decent, and this is just a cold storage building, but these are still your low-E glass insulated. We got grills in the glass. The big thing, the reason I really went with these was because all the time when you go and get stock windows these days, it seems like they have built-in J channels, and I do not like built-in J channels for a steel building with J trim around the windows. So I was very happy to see not only do we have the built-in grills, which is awesome because it's a good look, but also that I don't have this stupid J channel that I have to deal with. So yeah, I decided to give them a chance, and so far I am liking them. So here's my tip. You're gonna set your window in your opening. You're gonna make sure that your opening is the right size based on the window manufacturer's spec. I'm gonna push it all the way to one side, and I'm just gonna make my mark here. I'm gonna slide it to the other side, and then I'm just gonna make a mark right here in the middle, okay? If you're confused still, just stay tuned. It'll all make sense. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, actually. This is not super complicated. Through the window, okay. So here what I'm using is Sashco's through the window trim, through the window sealant, and it's really good because it sticks to like everything, and it doesn't really matter if your materials are wet or whatever, it's all good. So we're gonna put a nice healthy bead right around this wood opening, you know, just something to seal the window into. I know a lot of people asked about no house wrap on this build. So, you know, if there's a thought that the building could eventually be insulated and heated, and a lot of times our clients are like, yeah, we're gonna do that eventually, but not right now. We will always put a house wrap on, even if we're not doing an insulated package. This building specifically was engineered to never be an insulated building, and my client knows that because he has another big building that we could continue to make shop. In fact, we just turned 104 foot of his 72 wide storage building into shop. So the point being, house wrap would be very expensive on this large of a building just to say you have house wrap. It would make, you know, potential window leaks or something a little bit easier because, you know, the water could run out onto the house wrap, but no need here. We're not gonna have that issue. Okay, so here's my pencils. I left them in my last window. This is important for spacing. So we're just gonna set these kind of in the middle. I've found that if I go too far out here, sometimes you get a little dip in the middle, but if you stay somewhat close to the middle, it does seem to do okay. Vinyl windows are notorious if they're not very high quality. They can have sags in them on bigger windows, not usually a 4x3, but it's just good practice. Okay, so now we're gonna set this window. I'm gonna bump it against my right side, set it on those nails. And before I set this, we're just gonna kind of eyeball where that little mark was I made, right there. And the reason I don't just slam it in and then slide it is because it'll kind of juice around through the window sealant. So now that I've got that, what I typically do is I'm just gonna hit my corners on my tops. And hopefully I don't have to repole them, but if I did a good job on my framing, everything should be nice and level. Then, what I seem to always find is that this side of a slider, you see this movement? See, I can just move this frame. Doesn't matter, every slider I've ever done, the frame on this larger side is always kind of malleable. I'm just gonna check it for straight and plumb. Okay, so I'm plumb and I am good and straight. So I kind of just work my way around a vinyl window. I found that if I don't pay attention, so let me tell you a story. Greg, do you remember the job that we left a pile of vinyl windows out on a pallet?
Yeah,
all wrapped in plastic in the middle of summer?
The one up by Byron?
Yeah, don't do that. First off, don't ever lay your windows flat in a pile in the summer, wrapped in plastic, made of vinyl. That's a no-no, because the shrink wrap was tensioned on the windows. The heat heated up the window itself, and my windows all became bowed and absolutely unusable. So I've just kind of always been worried about the straightness on edges. So I always just kind of make sure that things are nice and straight on a vinyl window, because, you know, these have been sitting out here at the job site for the last week. It's been really hot. I just want to make sure that everything is nice and straight. So I kind of check the side that the window's going to close to, and then bottom, and I'll check the top. Unfortunately, this is a single slider, so this is not going to move really, but I can control this side and then my up and down ever so slightly. So you see, it looks like right here I could give it a little movement. Okay, so there. That I like. We're sitting pretty. Now I'm gonna go ahead and fill in every other hole. I don't fill every hole in because I feel like it's gonna get screwed with steel, and I'm just wasting my time if I put a ton of nails in. The big thing is I wanna make sure that my sealant gets kind of squeezed in there. Now, you might be asking yourself, wait, Kyle, this like framing around this window looks different than a typical window. It is, because it's a cold storage, and we will do more framing. I kind of did this when I wasn't rolling the camera, and I'll show you kind of what we do on a cold storage building window frame. It's a little bit different than your shop window frame, and it's a lot easier too, actually. This is like one of the most annoying things, and it really bothers me, because where this welded corner comes together, you can kind of see how it's not flat. So you see the gap here, this gap, that shows up in our trims when we go to install them. So I always just take my snips, and usually snips work good, and I got to do both snips. And I just take that little bit of welded vinyl off, so when my trims come on here, they can be nice and tight to my window. If I don't do it now, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna go start installing my steel, and I'm gonna get really pissed off that there's a huge gap there. So I try to remember it. Greg will yell at me if I don't. If you don't know what these are, this is for the water that gets into the frame here. It can go out, and it comes out these little guys right here. So these are little flappers, keep the dirt from getting in there and filling it all up. You're probably thinking to yourself,
man, there's a lot of movement in that frame.
No, you're 100% right. We don't really have to worry about weight, but there is some deflection in the lumber, and a lot of that is going to be taken care of when we run all of our steel, because it all kind of gets locked in together. But at the end of the day, yeah, there is a little bit of deflection on the in-between post on a post frame. It's all built into the design and the diaphragm, so it's okay. All right, now that I got all the windows installed here, we actually have 6 more windows on the other side of the overhead door. We're actually not gonna worry about that. And the reason is because we're gonna try to work towards the overhead door in the middle of the building. We'll reset ourselves, make sure all of our measurements on our steel layout are where we want them, and then we will continue to frame windows, because these windows are all placed and installed, and the steel will all be laid out such that the ribs on the metal are perfectly where we want them, which is very important if you want a leak-free window, which we will also share and talk about here in a little bit. But first, I'm gonna go cut all my J channels up for my windows, and I'll get those installed next.
Oh, this is so annoying. We need to get grinder blades again.
Greg, go get a grinder blade. There's 100 of them. Or do we only have a quick lock?
I think we only have quick lock right now.
Because there's literally 100 grinder blades up in the top. All right, so I'm trying to think. I'm about out of this, but I might as well use up what I got. So I know you guys are probably questioning the window and the sealing of the window for not having any wainscot, no sheathing. Like, first off, nothing is leak proof, but the goal is to keep the water from running in behind the siding. So when we put this piece on and we have that big bead of through the window or through the wall sealant, any moisture that gets in here, it's gonna be stopped by that sealant. I trust that sealant. Here's the deal. I've done crappy sealant in the beginning of my career and not had issues. This is like way better sealant, so I have even more faith. But then you can see this other big fat bead that I'm gonna press this trim into, and I also kind of put some right here where this joint is. So the goal is not for it to be waterproof, but to make sure that water doesn't have a way in. And then, you know, do your best with your mechanical flashings. Obviously, always do your best that way, but then always come in with a good high quality sealant and try to keep it so that water always runs over. So if water comes here, I push this trim up tight in the backside to my sealant. That way, you know, the water can kind of work out this way. So, you know, have I ever had a window leak ever? If you guys didn't see, we did a window ad video on the same property that we're on now, and we pulled out windows, took the steel off of a almost 8-year-old building, and all the wood was still good. There was no like signs of moisture, and that was no house wrap, and that was using silicone way back in the day because we didn't know about Sashco products, or we really didn't know the difference of high quality sealants versus like your $2 tubes that you pick up at the local yard. So my whole point is, this is not leak proof, but if you do a good job detailing your trims, this is the first step in keeping the water from getting behind your steel. We still need to do more sealants and more little tips and tricks as we put our steel on. That'll come next. So I'm gonna wrap up the last window and then we're gonna move on. We're gonna get our wainscot installed, nothing real new there, so we'll probably just bust through that. And then we'll move on to our side steel where we'll start getting cut around these windows and get it properly detailed for, you know, water prevention, not leak proof. As you can see, Greg and I have a little bit of a routine here. Although I was the one screwing and he was the one installing when we started, but we kind of got switched up. I don't know how that happens, but I get them all set and then he's coming behind me and finishing the screw. I don't know if it really saves any time, but I think it makes it go quick, don't you, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives us both something to do.
Yeah, that way one guy's focusing on one task and we can each focus on our own task. I might try to go ahead a little bit. My goal is for the rib to be centered right on my edge up there. Problem is, this little trim here is keeping me up a little bit. Let's try and do that. If this works, this would be great. Oh yeah, this would be great. So I'm gonna let Greg, now that that one's where I want it, he's gonna measure out 3 foot for like a lift length. We'll make sure that we like it. It's gonna be more important on this side to have measurements because we're gonna be going in and out of windows. So on the other side, it was more important that we just stayed plumb, that we stayed consistent, and over here, plumb is more important, especially going in and out of the windows. So I don't know. Greg, I think I'll probably have you mark to the window. I just want to see how it lays with the marks before I get too involved.
And it's good now, right?
Ah, buddy, it's good.
All right.
Go ahead and cut our first window. First of many. I like to mark it out on the pile because the pile's nice and rigid. When I put it on the sawhorses, it will not be this nice. Let's see, 89 3/4, 126 1/8. Right up that minor rib. And we're gonna go 1.5 inches past. Okay. Nice thing when measuring steel, if you're looking for like a weird dimension within the steel panel, it's kind of hard because there's no edge to hook your tape to, right? I mean, all you have to do is these are all 9-inch on center ribs. So you can take like 9 inches, centered up on the first rib, or let's say you're over here and you just want to take 27 inches, centered on this rib, because you're gonna mark 30 inches. You can do that, 9, 18, 27. You know exactly where the tape is supposed to be. So a little tip for you there. Definitely not an ideal cut for steel around a window, especially an upper window, because I'm going to be so close to my good rib over there with my cut. I'm going to be cutting all this material out. So I'm not going to have a whole lot of structure to get this up to Greg. We'll see how it is. This is all I'll have, is this good rib holding the top to the bottom. That breeze is not gonna be my friend. So you're going to have to take it and we'll have to turn it around. Nice.
Am I too low?
Nah, I can't see anything, but as long as you're happy, man.
Huh? I mean, that was pretty smooth.
Careful, careful.
All right.
Okay, bottom, buddy. Well, first window. 4 more, that's easy. It's just a little slow down compared to just running full sheets, but it does make it look a lot better having the windows.
Yeah, I mean, I think windows add a nice touch to it.
South side, get all that nice daylight coming in.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy. That's about all I got, dog. Nope, it's starting to go, it's starting to go. Oh shoot.
All right.
Oh shoot.
Uh-huh. What?
Get your J in. There you go. Go ahead, just a hair. Oh, too much. Yeah, man, right there.
That is probably...
Come on, Kyle. What the heck? Greg, I just had a random white screw show up in my bag.
Random screw?
Yeah, a random white screw.
Cool.
Let's play a game and let's leave this here and see how long it takes for my customer to say, Kyle, there was a white screw on our wall. We'll see what happens. We'll leave it there. It'll be funny. We'll all joke about it later. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. You got it, dude. Nice work. I was saying nice work to me. Like I did nice work, you know?
Okay.
I did nice work getting it to you.
Sure.
All right, going in the J. Nice. You're like a dang extension of my own hands, Greg. You're doing everything that I wanted you to do, that I wanted to do. You gotta bring that top.
No. Yep, there you go.
Well, now you messed me up. Heck yeah, dude. Man, this day was totally delayed today. We got 2 hours behind schedule. I'm happy we still got as far as we did, to be honest. Did you think we were gonna make it this afternoon, Greg?
Yeah.
Me too. I was just trying to add some drama into the video, you know?
Oh, if I knew that, I would have complained a little bit more, maybe act like I was worried.
All right, back here Friday morning, and we did all that wall steel yesterday. We now have this overhead door that we need to trim out, detail. We have a man door, walk door, coming in right here next to the door so that you can obviously go in and open the door, do whatever. And then we've got 6 windows. So I'm gonna start getting this man door framed. It's a little bit different than how we typically do it because we're not insulating this building ever. It's not engineered for it. You can't put a ceiling in it. The trusses aren't designed for that. So that is why also we're not doing house wrap. There is no heat. This will always be a storage building. So the first thing I did was I followed my steel layout to find where a rib is going to be so that I can accurately lay out my door so that I don't have ribs up my J channel. Same thing with windows. It's very important to make sure you don't have ribs laid out right where your trims are because then you have water issues, okay? So now that I know where my door is gonna go, I know the rough opening of the door. I almost made a mistake until I just literally thought about this. I have to, because of the way this door is framed, I'm actually going to cut it out another 1.5 inches bigger than the rough opening that they tell me, and you will see why here in just a little bit. So let's get this line squared down. Our grade is at 4 inches above the bottom of the grade board. So I've got a 4-inch mark right here, and I'm going to do my best. I'm gonna have to see the bubble to get this guy nice and level. Ooh, that's tough. I don't want to move this. All right. So that is what I'm going to cut out of this grade board. And this is always the most fun part. Especially because we just got like 3/4 of an inch of rain or something over the last few hours. It just cleared up, so we are just getting out here, and I need to get low to the ground to make this nice cut. You're probably thinking, aren't you going to compromise this grade board by cutting half of it out? Yes, so we will have to stiffen this up. And there's going to be concrete poured up against here, so that will inevitably make it much stiffer as well. Okay, I'm gonna come in the inside, try to get as close as I can, finishing these cuts. I might go get the multi-tool, but I don't think it's really worth it, to be honest. I could probably just use a good knife. Really quite simple what we have to do from here. I've got these boards cut right here all to the proper height. So these are all rough opening height, okay? And it is just about not enough room in this opening, but it's gonna work out perfectly. And what I need to do here is set up a laser, because this is honestly the easiest, even though I have a level right here. I'm gonna set up my laser, and I always just find it easiest just to, because I don't have to leave this laser on forever. Just make some quick marks. You guys probably can't even see that laser. You think I'm just making this up, but I can see it. This laser is outdated, and I think we're gonna hopefully see a new one of these pretty soon. Something with a lot more powerful beam. It just runs off 3 AAAs, but outdoors in the sun, I mean, not many lasers work, you know? Next thing I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna stiffen up this bottom, which, Greg, would you, listen, I don't ask for much.
I don't even.
I don't ask for much. Yeah. See, I got this spot developing here in my shoes, and as you can see all the water, our grade board that I need is sitting over there in that water. Not in the water, but on a pile in the water. And Greg has like some brand new waterproof shoes, so my guy he's got my back. I stepped in a puddle already today and it just went right into my shoe, so it happens. It is what it is. All right, so I need to reinforce this guy here. I'm gonna do that 52 5/8. You the man, Greg. You know what, I'm gonna buy you lunch today, okay? Thanks for that.
Socks are still dry.
52, they don't only look good, but they also,
They work good.
okay. 52, 3, 5/8, 52 5/8. All right, so we're just gonna use this. This is going to get stiffened in the back, which looks a little tight. I don't think I want it that tight. And we're essentially building a double grade board here for the door to set on. Building up the grade board for a sill. This is important, obviously, to make sure it's flush. And very important to make sure that this is straight and flat, because that's where your door is going to set. Using GRK screws because they are good for treated. So I don't feel worried about this. There, so that just stiffens that up. And what it's gonna allow us to do now is take our boards that I cut to the rough opening width, and that's what we're gonna install them on top of. So let me get these marks. Okay, once we get these guys, those two installed, we're gonna go ahead and cut out these lines that I made. Okay, now you remember how I added 1.5 inches to my rough opening? That is because now what I'm going to do is give myself a nice solid 2x right here in the opening. And this is gonna give me something solid to screw my door into. And this is also going to kind of stiffen up this wall. Even though I'm so close to the post, I don't have to worry about it. But if it's in the middle of a 8-foot bay, this helps stiffen up and bring all of the girts into plane with each other, so you don't have kind of one in, one out. Okay, so once I get it screwed into my girts, I'm gonna go ahead and throw some more screws into that 2x that's right behind it, kind of in the middle. That'll kind of solid this up. I'm gonna wait to do the top. So when we're doing like an insulated door, and you haven't already picked it out, what's different is when we're doing an insulated door, we're gonna do a full jamb that's the same depth as our columns, which in this case is a 2x8, and that is so that we can then frame on the inside and have insulation all the way around the door and all that good stuff. But with a cold storage, we don't have to do that. It's not necessary. And we're just looking to frame in a nice solid opening for the door, and then that's really it. Okay, so now we need to deal with the header, and I say header loosely because it's not really supporting really any weight. We're just looking to define the exterior top so that we can basically put steel and trim around it. So I've got a 2x6, and that's gonna get set up right here. This is very similar to what we do on all of our door openings. Okay, that is gonna get screwed in. So I'm just gonna screw into the top of this jam board here, flushing it up obviously. Maybe not obviously, but. All right, we'll take this 2x4, and this is what we're gonna kind of be able to install our trims and our steel on. And I'll kind of work my way over, but this is gonna get screwed in, and this is gonna bring everything kind of into the same plane as the post columns, if there's anything out of plane. Because as it draws everything together, which is why I like using screws, it's gonna force the face of this door, all of this to be in plane, basically with the front of these columns, which is all where all this is. So the big thing with post frame that I find is that sometimes there's a lot of kind of ins and outs because you're dealing with larger lumber. So especially in doors and windows, you want to account for that, and you want to bring everything back to where you want it. I'm not running out of screws again. Actually, I have to frame a whole bunch of windows, so I'm just gonna take this whole box of screws. I'm gonna need them. I kind of forgot about that. All right, whenever I'm installing a walk door, it doesn't matter if it's by myself or with Greg, it doesn't even matter. I always throw these blocks on the door, and it makes the job so much easier, and you will most definitely see why. All right, so this is the walk door we're gonna be installing. It's a 20 series Plico door. Typically we do a 92 series door, that may be what you've heard us call it out as. And that's because that is a insulated door with a thermally broken jamb and door slab. This is strictly a cold storage steel door. So that's all it is. They're great doors though. They're not cheap, but I would highly recommend a steel door in a post frame like this, not a wood framed door that you pick up at your local, hardware store or whatever. This is also a universal swing door. So the way it's sitting right now, it would open up and open this way. So the hinge would be here, but that doesn't make much sense because this is where your garage door is, and you're gonna wanna open the door, push the button to open your garage door most likely, right? So what I can do is literally flip it over. It's pretty cool. So that's how I'm gonna install this. Come on. That actually works really good. We're gonna put some through the door here. We're gonna go up my jamb just a little. We're gonna put a nice fat bead across the front. And then we're just gonna give ourselves a ton of little squiggly lines. So now you can see those nice blocking stops are perfect for me to set this door in and go right against them. And then what I'm gonna do is actually set a block on the back so that it also can't come out. There. I like the block method because I can kind of lock it in, and then I can work on this door without it falling out and moving around on me, and I can get it perfectly plumbed up. So I already know I'm level at the bottom, so I'm gonna get my laser and we'll check it for plumb, and we're gonna do that on the outside. Let's see. Come on. All right, I'm just eyeballing center for the opening right now. Not even really worried about being perfectly plumb. It's way easier to see this laser on the inside, and honestly, I can do this from the inside. It's just that this door actually has some fasteners in the frame on the outside that I can access without having the door open itself. But we're gonna go ahead and just set this laser up so that it's just basically kissing this right here. So now what I can do is I can follow this up. I can take my shims. I've already kind of got this locked in over here. and it looks like I could probably squeeze it over just a hair. So let's do that. Let's see, where is my... Okay. Come on. I've got my laser top and bottom, and really throughout this whole thing, it is right where I want it. So that's a good thing. I'm gonna go ahead and throw some shims. Let's see, we're gonna try to get some shims behind the hinges. And that is where, yeah, these are almost too fat to come in from one side. So luckily we don't have a wall here. I can just do this. I'm always gonna squeeze it just a little bit more than what I think it needs, because when I put my fastener in, it is going to squeeze it even more. All right, so now verifying, I like my laser line, it is nice and plumb. Now these doors always open up a little rough at first because the seals are like really legit, but I can tell by the reveal up here, and I might need to do something right here in the middle, that's okay. And then I'm gonna look down this reveal, which this also can get a little bit of work done to it, but the nice thing about a steel door is they're a quality steel door, like these Plicos. We've been buying Plicos for probably the last decade. The good thing is it's pretty much, you put it in, you start with a level sill and plumb jams. It's really not too hard. We've got painted white screws. Those are gonna be for the door frame. And then I've got these 3 unpainted, that is gonna be for my hinges. So we're gonna put those in first. All right, so we like our laser. We're gonna go ahead and open this door up. You know what, that's okay. That's okay. And I'm gonna put these screws right through the hinge and right through my shim. And I know I lost my shim here, but that's actually okay. I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna snug this up, not over tighten it, because I can actually see my laser line back here. All right, now let's verify that we didn't move our laser line. Okay, like that. It's looking mighty good. I'm actually going to throw that shim back in here now that this screw's here. Let's go right on top of it. I'm just gonna kind of snug it up. Make sure my laser didn't go anywhere. Okay. Next thing we're gonna do is I always just come right to the middle, because there is a screw in the middle here, and it looks to me like this is a little bit thicker. So I'm just gonna, once again, I'm gonna eyeball this. Just looking at this line, making sure that it looks consistent all the way up, which it does. And at the latch, the Plico has like a special screw. I don't know why they do this though. This is kind of a goofy thing, but I'm able to use a square bit on everything but these. And we gotta get in here, and there's a little hole. Okay, so that's just giving us a little bit extra strength right here. And then we've got all these frame screw holes. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is those white screws. We're gonna go ahead and fill those in, snug them up. Probably good practice wherever you have a screw hole going into the jam, just go ahead and throw some shims there. So we don't wanna push this out too much, so I'm just going to kind of feel it nice and snug. And then before I put any screws in this door, just gonna close it one more time, make sure that I like the reveal still, which I do. And then these are like a big, much beefier screw, and you actually notice if you're gonna do one of these doors, you actually do have a couple different sizes. So you have 4 that are larger, and then these 2 that are smaller. So when you're looking at this, the 2 that are smaller, they're gonna go inside here, and then your 4 large ones are gonna go right on the outside of your jamb. And yeah, people could undo these screws from the outside, but that's why you still have these internal screws that'll be hidden. And let's face it, it's a cold storage building. Your wall is made up of 29, 26 gauge steel with screws in it that you could easily pull out. So when people are like, oh, you know, that's not very secure. Well, I mean, it's secure in a sense that it's plenty of security for what the building type is, you know? It's kind of like when people are like, hey, put a deadbolt on my door. Why? What do you think the deadbolt's gonna stop the person trying to break into your house? Like if they want in, they're just gonna go to your window or break the glass in your door. Like the deadbolt is only stopping an honest thief. That's what I always say. They're more of a hassle than what they're worth. My opinion. Okay. We got a nice steel door. We're gonna go ahead and throw the lock set real quick. We'll pop all these shims out, and then it's good to get flashed and start putting our steel around it. Yeah, it is always very stiff. Sometimes there's a piece of, no? I think the reason it has to be so stiff is because it's universal, so they have a very thick top and bottom seal, which on most doors you don't have. Most doors you have a bottom seal and then a perimeter jamb seal, but this just has 2 perimeter side jamb seals, and then it is sealed top and bottom with like a threshold seal. So no, he's working on the door. Okay, so whenever you put a lock set on, when you put your key in, you want it to be facing like this, because you want all the little tumblers, the things that are like lining up with all these little grooves, you want them up just in case any moisture gets in there. It reduces the opportunity for freezing on your lock set. So that's why I'm taking this off, and I hope, man, I hope I can remember how to do this. I always have to, come on. I always have to end up reading the directions, but there we go. Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
First time, dude. I did it the first time on the door.
No way.
Key came out and everything, dude.
No way.
Heck yeah, awesome.
Do you remember how you did it?
I mean, I kind of pushed it in, I turned it, and then I just pushed it back in, you know?
So you got lucky.
I got lucky. You guys, you don't know how many times we sit there and like, why does this not work? And then the key won't come out. And, you know, yeah, we should read the, you know, instructions, but instructions are for losers, dude. So, all right, this is done. We're nice, we're turned around. Okay, cool. We're moving on. We're gonna now go ahead and get, let's get this overhead door all trimmed out. This garage door, overhead door trim, it's a custom trim that we had made because I like a nice one-piece clean look. It goes around the front and then it tucks in around the back. And one thing that we do is we do add this 2x2 right here on the face, and that is to go inside of this spot just for a little bit of extra strength. So if you bump into it, yeah, it's gonna scratch, but hopefully it doesn't squash it. Okay, I just need to get this out of my way. And then hopefully this fits on here like a dream. I'm gonna tuck that up nice and tight. Now, I always get the question, why do you guys go ahead and do a seam down low? And I'm curious if you guys know why we do that. Those that have paid attention, maybe drop a comment down below why you think we run our seam right here instead of running a 10-footer and then putting the seam up there. I'm curious to see how many of you pay attention. All right, we're looking to just tack that in because now we need to cut a piece that will go in here. And let's see, Greg brought that down. So we'll go 44 inches. Really don't want to cut this. There we go. Oh, I had it. Rat. Okay. That's a simple relief cut, just trying to reduce some material here. Also, when I put this trim in, I am going down to our grade, which is 0, which is 4 inches up. So that's, I can feel Greg's got his framing here. He put that in to a spot, and I always go just below that. So in case you're wondering, it's not arbitrary. I mean, there's a point that we're trying to hit. All right, now that the door sides are done, we'll go ahead and head up to the top and we'll do our top. There will be more nails going in here, but I don't think you need to see us putting all those nails in. What are the odds I'm gonna hit a freaking nail, man? Oh, well, it gives me an opportunity just to double check that I like everything. Yeah, I don't like it to be too tight. All right, at least that's not going anywhere. You'll notice we've got this detail here. So we cut this piece went all the way up into here, and then this guy's gonna overlap. What this is gonna allow us to do is to tuck a piece of J-channel here and then also flash over the top, kind of like we do our windows where the water will run out over into the flat instead of a straight cut right here where it just falls right down here and then goes into that potential leak spot. So that's kind of a, I wouldn't say unique detail, but not everybody does it, that's for sure. We're gonna go 23 inches, and here's my piece. My little scrap. I don't remember my snips making this much noise. This is kind of an important detail. You see how there's like a rounded edge to this trim? I don't want to cut through the rounded edge. I want to cut just on the bottom side of it, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to cut this piece off. You see how I I don't know if it's really gonna show up, maybe from this side. See how I left the radius of that bend? I cut on the top side of it, not on this side of it, so you can still see that, okay? That's kind of important. It's just an eyeball. I think I can eyeball the middle of this. All right, nice clean cut. So the purpose of that, leaving that rounded edge, so when I put it on here, which I need to seal this yet, but with some sealant. You see how I left it there? When it goes over, it's giving me a little bit, I don't cut that point all the way back to here, I leave it just shy, and it just gives me a little bit more coverage right here at this point where, if I remove this, where this is. So I'm just giving myself a little bit more coverage from water here. This is just to break capillary action so water doesn't try to make its way into the door. Okay, right about there. I should have done this before I put the sealant here. It's gonna be nice getting sealant all over my snips. Hey Greg, can I see your snips?
Snips? Yeah, where's
they're
yours?
basically mine anyway. I'll just get a new pair. Never mind, dude, it's all good. I won't do you dirty like that. I really like these reds though. This squeaking green is, I can do without it. All right, so I'll go ahead and tack this all up and then we're ready for J-channel, and then we can run our base trim, our wainscot, everything into this door, and I'll probably move on to now trimming out the walk door because Greg's been staying busy. He's doing all the wainscot and stuff, so we'll keep him just moving on that. So why did we run our trim here and break it here instead of up there, maybe out of eyesight? Because first off, we're 4 to 6 inches lower than we will be when this is all finished grade, right? And when I walk up here, I'm looking at this. I'm on top of this joint. And to me, if I'm sitting here and I'm kind of analyzing somebody's work and I'm like, oh, nice door, nice door. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of ugly. I can see straight up into this joint if it's up there. So when you come down here and you see the shadow line, that's what you would see every time you look at this door. But when I step back here, because this is lower than my eyesight, I don't see the shadow line as much. Now it's the same as up there, you can't really see it because it's dark, but our joint piece, we ran the left side first, the right side second, and it's all thought out because this is predominantly where people will be coming from. They'll come in here, they'll look, and that joint is covered. So we always think about how can we make it less visible. And in my opinion, putting that joint 4 feet down from that top, it would be right where I would look up and see that shadow line. So kudos to everybody that got it right in the comments. Congratulations. I just love this look. I love the one piece jam. Make a mark, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. I'm putting it on here so often, I don't really need to do it this often, is I'm going to take some flashing tape, which you don't really have to do this on a cold storage, but I don't like caulking my trims to my door. So if you have to move a door, you know, shift it, whatever, you don't have to cut all the caulking out. So, and I think it's just a cleaner look when you don't have caulk. So what I'm going to do is just tape this door jamb to the frame. And all I'm looking to do is just protect it from any wind-driven rain that might try to make its way through, kind of give it a place to run down the flashing instead of go back and get into the wood. I actually never used to do this until probably the last couple of years when we do cold storage. And so we never had a problem, but I don't know. I guess it's just like a belt and suspenders approach here. So we're gonna run this kind of long. We'll trim it back when we get our J channels on there. So those marks that I made are just giving me a place to make sure I don't run my tape out past where my trim is gonna go. Now when I run my J on the sides, you can tell because this is a universal threshold, I can flip it both ways. It's not very big. So we're gonna want to maximize the coverage. There's not gonna be a ton of coverage on this J channel with that top frame. So we're gonna cut our trims at 81 inches. So now I'm just looking for my little tick marks I made. And so I don't want to caulk this. I mean, there's really no, it's not like we're going to be sucking in air and it's going to be trying to get through here. It's going to be, you know, water will take the path of least resistance. So it's not going to want to really have to work all the way in here when it can just flow freely down this side. But if water does, at least it will maybe run down that flashing instead of run in and go into the building. And now that we have this trim on, I'll just take this adhesive and just get that out of there. Okay, and that top piece of J channel will stay off until we install our steel, just like we install our top J on our windows later. So this is all ready now to get base trim, wainscot, and then we can work over this door. And I'm sure that's what Greg will work on. I'm gonna get to working on the 6 other windows, which I told you I would show you how we frame a window that is also in a non-insulated building because it's different than the way we frame our windows. Very similar to a walk door, one versus the other, insulated versus non-insulated. So, all right, so on to framing some windows, and we're using this nail girt as our top header. It's consistent, we know it's shot with a laser, therefore all of our windows will have the same height on them. And then we're gonna come down, and you can see I put this bottom 2x4 in. This is my bottom header, and I basically just measured it 3 foot for height, right? The next thing that I need to do, because Greg has already ran our wainscot, is I'm gonna set my big plate level down at the center of the rib that I've designated where I want my window to be. So our windows are typically on center of rib. That way when we come through them with our cuts, our J channels don't end up on a rib. Same as a door. I basically am just looking for a dead plumb here from that middle of that rib down there. So I know when I put my side steel on, this is also the middle of the rib, will be the middle of the window. So once I've got my center mark, my windows are 48-inch windows, rough opening, 47.5 actual, right? So what I like to do is I'll just take my tape measure, I'll set it at 34, which 34 is 24 plus 10. I do that because if I set it at 34, that's my half if I go back to 10. So I made myself a mark at 10 inches, that's 24 inches to center. 24 more inches is 58, I'm gonna make another mark. But because this is a non-insulated building, we're not doing a full jammed like window box, I'm also gonna mark myself 1.5 inches. Similar to the walk door earlier in the episode, but we're framing it a little bit different. So now that I have those marks, I know where the outside of my window is. What I've got is a couple pieces of blocking. It's easiest for me if I just go ahead and set a couple nail or screws where I know I'm gonna screw it. Okay, and I'm gonna take my first piece of blocking, and you'll notice what I did was I cut it to go bottom of my 2x4 to the top of my 2x6. Probably doesn't have to be, it's just kind of an anal thing. I just like to make sure it's full full length. And I'm gonna line it up on the outside line, put in a screw, and then I'm going to, let's put this up here, grab my level. That was my other block. Hey Greg, would you be able to reach in there and grab that, you think? Okay, so now I'm just going to find plumb. This ensures that my window is going to be nice and plumb. Hello? Okay, so we're good there. And instead of plumbing up the other side, what I'm going to do is just measure from here. I'm going to give myself my 1.5 inch mark. You'll see what that's for. Then I'm going to measure over 51 inches because 48 plus 1.5 inches on both sides is 51. All right, so on this other side, I'm going to use the marks from my first measurement, and I will also use this mark up here that I just made coming off of that side. Basically, as long as my measurements are accurate, and this one was plumbed up, it should be nice and plumb. Okay, so now we've got our two sides kind of defined. Let's go ahead and tie our gird in. And now what we need to do is we need to cut this gird out, and we need to give ourselves that 1.5 inch line. That is gonna be where our blocking is gonna go. So we're gonna put a 2x4 here. Well, there's too much here. If I'm out here 1.5 inches, a 2x4 is 3.5. That means I need to come back 2 inches. So I'm gonna mark back 2 inches. I've already set it to the depth of a 2x so that I don't dig. I'm gonna go a little past the 2x, but not much. Then all we gotta do is take 2 more blocks, and this is what's creating our face frame. I'm gonna have to hit that a little bit harder. Maybe it'll fit in this side. Okay. And now we're gonna set these right to that inside mark, which designated my 48 inch opening. And the reason we do this, just to give a little bit of backstory, is not on this job, but sometimes we are tasked with building a cold storage building, and the client says, hey, someday I may insulate this, but I'm not really ready to pay for that. And the way we used to do it was like this, where we would just do this cold storage frame detail. If you were to come in and build yourself like a 2x6 box to go all the way in, it's gonna go right against this 2x that we set back 1.5 inches so that, you know, you can come in here, build a 3x4 box. It'll fit right in here, screw it into the frame, or screw it in from the side into here. And then you can have an insulated, framed out window opening. So that's why this is set back 1.5 inches. We don't really have to do this for this building specifically, but it's common practice for us. So it's just what we do. And if you're gonna do a job where maybe it's gonna get insulated eventually as well, but you're not quite putting in all that effort and money into building your boxes, which I think, why not? You know, and that's what I was getting at. We actually just kind of do it now that way. If we know there's a chance to be an insulated building in the future. But this is not. This is never gonna be an insulated building. So there you go. This is now your opening frame for a window. You're probably thinking, dude, there's nothing to that. There's not much frame. And you're correct. There doesn't really need to be. We're literally putting a window kind of in a steel panel, giving it some nice structure so it's not going anywhere. We have plenty of face frame going around for all of our trims, our screws, and now I'm ready to go ahead and put my window in. So pretty easy. Oh.
Okay, we'll go up, get in first, slide it over, and then
I think I need to start down here, to be honest. Can we go up?
yep,
Okay, there we go.
I'm holding it up.
I just don't know if I have the strength. Come on.
Not so much strength as it is like worry about slicing your finger off.
Okay. You think they call it a plumb bob because like some guy Bob was just a straight shooter and like always just like you
Well,
could...
I assume there's a guy named Bob who made the plumbest buildings ever.
Or do you think it's because it was like literally like something that bobbed around and settled on plumb? Like why plumb bob?
Got like really muggy out, you know?
I don't think it's muggy. I just think it's...
It's very humid out.
Yeah, maybe. All right, we got all of our windows framed this morning. So now we're ready to finish up this end wall, or the side wall of steel. Should be pretty easy. You know, I came to a realization this morning when I got out of bed, or actually I was still in bed. And that was, it was a long weekend. So I hadn't gotten up at 6:10, my alarm goes off.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't gotten up that early in 4 days.
3 days.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so Tuesday. So Friday I got up that early. Saturday, Sunday, Monday I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Then Tuesday, this morning, I got up early. In that amount of time, I think the sun rose later by a significant amount.
I noticed it was a lot darker this morning.
It wasn't cloudy this morning, but it was still dark.
Yes.
And that was depressing to me. Absolutely depressing. It happens every year, and somehow I expect it's going to be different, you know? But it's not. Just grab it that side. I'll reach over. We saved our last sheet. We just had to go get a new stack, and we saved our last sheet because it has all of our punch rows in it, so we don't have to remeasure, and that way if something got off just, you know, a 1/16 of an inch or whatever, there won't be a sudden shift to perfection again. It just kind of flows with whatever we're at here. So I don't think it's a big deal, but I did it on the back and you couldn't even tell.
Yeah. Great line. A brand new one.
Oh yeah, I got a brand new one, dude.
Which one? Look at?
You can touch it.
I just want to see it. Wow.
You can have it.
You got another one?
Nope.
Oh.
Just giving you my new one, dude.
You need it more than... Wait, isn't that mine?
No, that's definitely mine. I kind of like this little stubby though. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like it takes a while to get to this point, and then you've earned it. But I do like new too. New is not too bad. I hate doing this. What the heck, man?
I mean, I'm not worried about up here.
Okay.
The second and the...
No, I ain't worried about the middle. So just as a little side pointer, this is the maximum that we can go with our layout. This rib is centered 3 inches off of the edge of our building. And when we do our layout, that's something we consider. We either have to be 3 inches or less, or 6 inches or greater from this corner. And if we do a 6-inch rib, this means the rib would be over here, then we have to do a bend up so that water can't go in here. But the way this is, our corner trim will cap this. It'll go right up against this trim, and it'll stop any wind-driven rain coming in through the corner. So 9-inch ribs is a little bit confusing because you always have to think in 9-inch dimensions for everything. A 1-foot profile is easier, but 9 inches is totally doable. You just have to think ahead. All right, buddy. Cool. That's a big wall. All right, feels good, guys. That is 3 walls out of the 4. In fact, probably the most difficult wall, just because overhead door, walk door, 11 windows, had to cut around all those, frame them in, trim them in, and the fact that it's 304 foot long. But it really didn't take that long, I think, maybe just over a day's worth of actual time to do this wall. We're gonna go ahead and cut this video right now because we obviously did a lot in this video, and we've got one more wall to do. It's gonna contain 2 overhead doors, a walk door, and then we're gonna probably throw in our finished trims and all that other good stuff. So definitely make sure you guys are subbed or following along for probably what will be like the main last video of this build coming up, and then we'll do some nice walk around and some, you know, cool drone footage, stuff like that. So don't want to miss that, but we'll go ahead and end it right here. Hit the like if you enjoyed this, and we will catch you on the next video.